when he had my Grammy on his wall that he finally accepted my career. I did try to hold down conventional jobs. From a young age, I was interested in architecture and design, and had filled a notebook with sketches. After dropping out of school at 16, I walked into an architect's office and showed him my drawings. He was impressed and told me to go back and finish grade 12 and then he'd hire me. I had no intention of going back to school, so I found a job as a layout artist for gravestones. Yet I was always drawn to music. I studied the conservatory program for drums as a teenager. When I was 15, I took over our basement, and after turning the pool table into a drum riser, I filled the room with amps, posters, and black lights, and it looked like a club. Although perhaps unusual for a teenage boy, I added rugs and lighting, focusing on a design aesthetic. Looking back, I realized that was actually my first studio installation, where I realized the gear and sound are only half the equation, that the look and energy of a room matter too. To this day, no matter who I work with, I set up the gear so it isn't intimidating or the most obvious thing in the room. I never have cables lying all over the floor like they do in so many other studios. In my late teens, I worked in the local Hamilton music scene, mixing and doing live sound. But by age 20, I'd had a serious motorcycle accident on my 1971 Norton 750, which left me unable to continue due to back injuries. Adversity equals opportunity, and with the brashness of youth, I marched into Grant Avenue Studio, a local recording studio. "The government will pay half my wages if you pay the other half," I told them. I was hired. Because I'd had so much experience on the road doing quick setups and sound checks for live shows, I was able to transfer those skills to the studio. And I was faster than a lot of studio guys, who are usually laid back because they feel there is no time crunch. In the years that followed, there were only a few times I was tied down by a studio, such as Kingsway or the Teatro. But I simply don't work like other people, so a typical studio wasn't enough. I like high ceilings and interesting locations, and that's more difficult than ever to finance. Essentially, the bottom has dropped out of the music industry. CDs no longer sell much, and many young people expect music free or as part of an online subscription. Everyone in the music industry needs to be more inventive now, and we're all being pushed to break new ground. Luckily, I worked on timeless records. People who focused on making hits in the 80s were riding high, but it's hard to have longevity. The last record gets you to the next job by word of mouth. The installations I set up to record individual albums are ideal, without the overhead needed to maintain a studio long term. Instead, I find a cool space, create the atmosphere, load it with fantastic gear, and then focus on the art. Sometimes I'll take everyone who is working on an album to a cottage. Everyone has their own room, and I hire a chef. And the musicians live, sleep, and eat in the same place. Something about everyone being in close proximity for a period of time encourages the creative flow. I find that creating an installation studio, setting up an entire studio in a chosen location to record an artist, then dismantling it and moving on to the next location and the next artist, is ideal for maximum collaboration and creativity, for both me and them. I often think that rules that have been set out for making music, the ones taught in recording programs, were all made by people who simply couldn't figure anything else out. Whatever recording technique is taught in a college program, I generally do the opposite. I record drums in the control room. I don't isolate artists. The truth is, anyone can record in their bedroom these days and make it sound good. That said, I'm anti-computers and programs like Pro Tools and GarageBand. I don't like the sounds, and I don't find them musical. I want to push record and begin, not mess around with drop-down menus or with a computer crashing. Otherwise, magic is lost. Essentially, you wipe out the performance with the technology, and it actually makes things slower. Everything's being compressed these days, with no dynamics. But I think it's better if I am the human compressor. Everything in my mix is me. I tell young people to get off the computer and get an old 4 or 8-track cassette recorder. Often I hook up some of the older icons.